everybody, and welcome back to my Zero Carb Life. I am so honored to be here today with Katrina Harris, who has been keto for 5 years, and then for the past 8 months, she's been on a carnivore diet, and for about 7 months of that, she's even been dairy-free carnivore, which is part of what I want to talk to her about today. She has coached many people, and I recently watched Katrina on Carnivore Yogi show with Sarah Kleiner. Interview was fantastic, and I immediately wanted to contact Katrina to talk. So hi, Katrina, welcome.
Hi, Kelly. It's so nice to meet you face to face.
Yes, same here. And I would love, before we talk about dairy and abstainers and moderators and everything else, people need to hear your story if they haven't yet. So please just give us, how did you come to carnivore?
I have dieted my entire life. First time I went on a diet, I was 10, and all I've done is go on diets all the time. I've always battled my weight. And keto, I think, worked for me because it removed things that were sweet and that changed my appetite. It made it so I wasn't, constantly hungry and thinking about food. Mm-hmm. And so then I think the other big part of my success is that I don't cheat. And it's the first time I've ever been on a diet where I didn't, take a day off, a meal off, the weekend off, the movies off, vacation off, holiday off, whatever kind of excuse that one can come up with. And honestly, I didn't know that was possible to not cheat. I didn't know that existed until Mary Roberts, who I know you're about to talk to, is the one who said, "Oh, I don't cheat." And I was like, "Wait, what?"
Right.
What does that mean? And that was like, it was like a light bulb moment for sure. So on keto, I lost 200 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
And
wow.
I tried carnivore for the first time several years ago. There was a bunch of us coaches who we had all heard Amber O'Hearn talk, and we're like, "Ooh, let's give this a whirl." And so really it was just kind of like an experiment. What happens if I do this? And I did it for about 5 or 6 weeks because I had no intention of doing it any longer than that. And I experienced a lot of oxalate dumping, but I didn't know that's what it was. Okay. I had no idea why my bowels were not happy.
Right. Okay.
But when I went back to plants, it was never at the volume I'd had previously. So plants really became, maybe once a day instead of twice a day, and then even really just not that much. And so this time, one of our other coaches, she's somebody she and I teach a class for women with lipedema and lymphedema to use keto to help those health conditions. And she was trying carnivore and having such amazing success that I was like, "I'll do it with you and see what happens." And again, my plan was like a month. Let's see what happens. And and she's the one who told me about oxalates, and I started doing research about that and anti-nutrients and all these other things. And I was just like, oh, and I kept going. And so I started the carnivore. And then the dairy-free was, once again, I thought it was going to be a 1-month experiment where Mary said, "I'm going to do this because dairy's bothering my blood sugar." And I was like, "I'll do it with you. Let's, go to solidarity."
It's a very good friend to give up cheese. I mean, that's huge, right? Like, I would maybe consider imprisonment for a friend, like taking one for that team versus I'm going to give up cheese for you. That's love. That should be a t-shirt. I would give up cheese for you.
So, what's funny though is, and maybe dairy is not such a big deal for me because cheese is not a big deal for me.
Oh.
I know. I know I'm unusual in that. Yeah. I mean, I like cheese, but it's like, but I was never the kind of person, I don't like strong cheeses. So, I mean, I don't like blue cheeses or anything like that. And I was never the kind of person who would just eat like a hunk of cheese. That was not me.
Okay.
But my weakness was heavy cream. And I drank ridiculous amounts of heavy cream. Even, you know, and I justified, well, that's all the carbs I'm having is from heavy cream. And, you know, maybe they were like, you know, as much as 10 a day from heavy cream.
Okay.
And all I could think of was, fat is good. This is a lot of fat. This is awesome. Calories are good. This is all great. But what it did was it made me unquenchably hungry. But I didn't know that until I stopped it.
Uh-huh.
And so when I stopped the cream, like the next day, I was not ravenous. And so Mary and I had a start date for dairy free. And so like the week before, I was like dabbling with, well, what is a day like without heavy cream? You know, am I going to be jonesing for it? Is this going to be like white knuckling it for me for a whole month? And so again, so I had one day where I didn't go get tea from Starbucks or add cream to my tea at home. And the next day I wasn't hungry. And I was like, So the next day I had tea again with the cream, ravenously hungry. Next day didn't have it, not hungry.
Okay.
So I know for me, and I knew it that quickly, cream just has to be, it's the same thing as a Hershey bar or Doritos. I just can't have them.
Okay. So I heard you say with Sarah in that interview, 1 is too many and 10 is never enough, because you describe yourself as not a moderator, but as an abstainer.
As an abstainer.
Kind of just give a real quick definition. I've listened to you talk about it, so I get it now, and I know I am not a moderator, which I'm really not. So tell them, what's that?
So it's funny. So a moderator is somebody who could have like a bite, like somebody, like if you went to dinner and they didn't eat all of their dinner, or they ordered dessert and a bite was plenty and they pushed the rest away.
I know some of these creatures. It's bizarre. They're like aliens to me.
I agree. If you were somebody who could eat one Oreo and the next time you go to get another one, your bag is stale, you're a moderator.
Okay.
Most of us, that bag calls to us and we are going to finish it.
Yes.
In a few days.
Yes. Things used to haunt me in my house. If it was in my home, it's like a ghost haunting. I would say I never forget that snack, that thing is there, no matter what else I was doing. It was always present with me.
Yes.
And that freedom of having a ghost-free home now, is that not amazing? It's like the ghosts are gone.
It is. Well, and what's interesting is it's not like everybody in my house is keto or even carnivore. I mean, there's an unbelievable amount of candy in my house from Christmas.
Yeah. Okay.
Those things actually none of that is an issue anymore because it's not keto. One of the things that really solidified carnivore for me is because I am not a moderator. And there were things on keto that are allowed that did not work for me, and that was berries and nuts.
Oh, the nuts.
And anything that tasted sweet. So a keto baked good, you know, I'd make a pan of keto muffins. I would eat all of them. And rationalize it, well, if they're gone, then they won't tempt me anymore. But then I'd make another
problem solved. Problem solved. They're gone. Good job.
But then you make more and the problem is not solved.
Yep. I have lived that.
So putting all of those foods again in that same category of the Doritos and the Hershey bar, because they're not carnivore, just made that the mental space of that negotiation of should I, can I, the guilt, the anxiety, but it's okay, it's keto is not cheating.
Yes.
It's a lot of mental space that I have now free for other things.
It's amazing. When I say my house is ghost free, there is still peanut butter here, which was like my nemesis, but I'm free from it. Like they don't call to me. It's like the ghost is finally resting in peace. It's here. It's just dead.
Yes.
instead of meat.
Yes, and carnivore and the dairy-free are the things that have really helped me to be a true abstainer and not negotiate with myself.
I know that you are not big on going hungry. If
No.
someone wants meat, they should eat. I think
if you're hungry, you should eat.
Yes. I know. I'm not on this board of you're on a carnivore diet and yet you still have to starve yourself to get results. I could have starved myself on any diet. I'm here to eat some meats.
Right. Well, I find that a lot of people, when they do carnivore, their appetite is so dulled that they really have to be careful because they undereat.
Yes, I agree. Hey, so I want to show them a picture of you had some vein concerns. And you went from keto, which you had already lost pretty much the entire 200 pounds.
Oh, yeah. I lost 200 pounds in like 18 months. I mean, I lost all of that really quickly and then just stayed steady.
But then the changes that you felt just removing that last bits of plants, the last bits of sweets, this blows my mind. Tell them that. It's so good.
So, all right. So I gave up the plants. I think that was in June. And in September, Mary and I went on a cruise.
Right.
And so we're at our hotel hanging out. And I look at my legs and I'm like, my spider veins are gone. I was like, how did that happen? And so I'm like texting her, can that happen on carnivore? Am I imagining this? And then I start going through every picture in my phone because I'm like, I know at some point I took a picture of my toes getting a pedicure where you could see that, where I knew you could see that. And I found the picture so I could do this side by side. And I'm like, they're still, the spider veins are still there, but they are massively faded. It is a huge difference.
Yeah, they look now like it's more of a flat, like, was it a painful thing before?
They just look like a bruise.
Okay.
And now they look like a much faded bruise.
Okay. So you mentioned lipedema. Could you give a little, what is it?
I will try in a nutshell. Lipedema is an adipose tissue disorder. So think of it as your fat is diseased. It does not function the way normal fat does. It is incredibly resistant to diet and exercise. So it is a disease that is diagnosed by palpation or visual. There's not a blood test or anything like that. So think about women that you know or you have seen where they are really small on the top, but then they just balloon out at the hips.
Okay.
So think about someone who might be like a size 10 on top, but like a 22 on the bottom.
Okay.
Typically, lipedema runs hip to knee or hip to ankle. The legs are very trunk-like. Often they have what's called a knee cliff, where there's like a fat that hangs over the knee. Okay. There's a fat pad, usually under the knee. And then some women have it all the way to the ankle, where the ankle looks like it's got like a rubber band around it, and it's called like an ankle cuff. Not everyone has all parts of that, but those are pretty typical. When you palpitate the skin, you can feel the fibrotic fat under the skin, and it feels like frozen peas or rice or gravel. And a lot of women have incredible pain because of it. I am very fortunate that even at 400 pounds, it was more uncomfortable, but not painful. Women with lipedema tend to bruise very easily. It is made worse by hormones. So a lot of times it shows up for the first time at puberty or when you have a baby or menopause. I know my ankle cuff showed up after I had my first child. And I know that because I thought my socks were too tight. I thought that's what caused it. And I don't like to wear socks ever since.
Wow. Well, that would do it for me too. That would ruin socks.
Yes, exactly. And keto and carnivore, I think, are the best ways to treat it because both of those things reduce inflammation, which is what fuels the diseased fat.
Yes. I think the more we can just keep preaching about, I mean, almost any issue that people have, so much of it stems from inflammation. I feel like I say this all the time.
Yes.
It's the inflammation
Yes.
and the carbs that are fueling that inflammation.
Yes.
And if you reduce the carbs, you're going to reduce the inflammation and you're going to reduce the symptoms, even in something that seems so hopeless.
Well, and even with lipedema, I mean, I have clients who are, I mean, that can be like 400 to 500 pounds.
Wow.
That might maybe lose a pound in a month. I mean, it's that hard to lose.
Yeah.
But by going keto, their inflammation is so much better that their pain is gone. And I'm like, your quality of life has now it exists where it didn't before. And that is way more important than anything.
Yes, I'm absolutely so much more about a quality of life than the size of your pants.
That's right.
I mean,
right.
Yes. If somebody can live a life where they feel better, and even if it's a pound a month, as long as you're living more and more months and you're headed in the right direction, and you've actually reversed it from going, 1 or 2 pounds on the other side.
Right. Well, and lipedema is progressive. So the more the diseased fat takes over, the more likely you are to, because it's the way it positions itself, your gait is going to change, and then everything changes, and then mobility becomes something that you can lose. So if you can stop the progression of the disease so that you don't lose mobility, again, who cares what the scale says?
Right. No, I do get that. So I get a lot of questions from people asking me, can I have cheese on a carnivore diet? And I say, some people can handle it quite well. Some people have no issues at all. If I have a lot of dairy, I think about your quote, 1 is too many, 10 is never enough. I want more and more. And I can keep it I can keep it kind of under control. Like a little bit of heavy cream in my coffee. I don't flip out. All right. But I do get a little bit of a drippy nose if I use a lot of it. My skin, I break out more, especially around my jawline. When my kids have a birthday, I make them this 0 carb cake that has cream cheese, heavy cream, and eggs. That's literally all that's in it. It's kind of based on the oopsie cake recipes.
Okay.
And so I don't normally fix that kind of stuff when it's in the house. I'll have it for their birthday. And I can immediately tell my skin just looks worse. I'm blowing my nose in the mornings. I'm like, my body really doesn't handle this well. What do you think? What is that?
I don't know. I think it's a reaction between the lactose and or the casein.
Okay.
And I agree. There are some people where they have an impact and other people where they don't. And some people have like the physiological responses, like what you're talking about. And some people have more what I'm talking about with me, which is more of a brain response and the cravings and hunger that don't make any sense.
Right. So do you tell your clients in regards to cheese, like if you can handle it?
So my rule of thumb with clients is I don't like to take dairy away from them, especially in the beginning, because it's a hard enough transition already. But if you've been doing carnivore or keto for a while and you are not experiencing the results you want, dairy is a fantastic thing to try.
I say the same thing. I am so with you on that. I think that is worth repeating. If you are not getting the results you want on carnivore with dairy, I believe it is worth every time trying without dairy.
Well, and I think it's key to know when you try and experiment, a day or a week is not sufficient. You need at least 4 to 6 weeks to see what happens. And then I think it's really important actually to reintroduce what happens after 6 weeks if you have 2 ounces of cheddar cheese. And
Yeah.
the answer to that might be nothing, because cheddar cheese, because it's aged, is very low in lactose. So
Oh,
cheddar and Parmesan are two that you might be able to get away with just fine. But like soft cheeses like cream cheese, sour cream, heavy cream, brie are
okay.
super high in lactose, and those may be a problem.
Well, that's
And
good
it's
to know.
just, and again, you've got to experiment. So if you're going to have 2 ounces of cheddar cheese and then nothing happens,
Uh-huh.
you might wait 4 or 5 days and like, well, now have, what happens if you have sour cream? And
Right.
again, it's the super slow, methodical, scientific way of checking yourself.
Okay.
And you might find that there are some dairy things that are fine for you. So I will admit, on a rare occasion, I do have hard cheese that I'll make a chaffle, because it's just, those are fun and easy,
Yes.
totally carnivore. But the cheddar does not bother me. It's the heavy cream that is my thing. But I told you, I'm not a cheese person anyway, so it's just not a big deal.
Yeah. Okay.
So, because I think I'm a cheese moderator, I am not a heavy cream moderator.
Gosh, the heavy cream. I know those birthday cakes kill me. They're just covered in heavy cream.
Yeah.
I do give that recipe out for the birthday cake. What do I call it? The oopsie cake
Mm-hmm.
recipe, because I do think, especially for zero carbers who have kids and you're trying to keep them very low carb, it's useful. It has its place. If I had that in my house all the time, I would not feel the same benefits of a carnivore diet.
Right.
It would
Right.
be haunting me. I wouldn't have my freedom from it. I would probably have worse skin. I do think I tend to gain weight. I have never had dairy for a long enough time, but I sort of feel like my clothes around the time when my kids have birthdays, I'm like, my clothes feel a little bit tighter after eating all that because I make a lot of cake. We live off of it for about a week. I know, it's so bad. But I mean, I say to myself, it's not that bad because it's just dairy and eggs.
It's
But
carnivore. It's okay.
it's carnivore. It can't be that bad. Except if I don't feel good, it's that bad.
Right.
And so
Right.
I think it's worth people knowing, yeah, if you can handle it, great. If you can't, you got to cut that mess out, or you're just going to forever be moderating, and feeling like you're regulating yourself. I think that's the thing I hate, is like
Well,
self-regulating.
I think that's what's really important, is if you are an abstainer,
Uh-huh.
you cannot be a moderator. You cannot pretend. That's just,
Right.
it does not work that way. And I think that's really important to know, that there may be parts of it that you can, but there may be other parts that you can't. And it's not like you will train yourself to be one. You're not.
I'm going to just accept me for who I am, Katrina.
Right. That's right.
Good.
I do want to say one other thing about dairy, and
Yes.
that is, if you deal with pain,
Uh-huh.
dairy is a good thing to give up too.
Okay.
And I have clients who don't think the dairy ever impacted them. It doesn't make them hungry, it doesn't make them bloated or anything, but they have unresolved pain. And what's interesting is, most people, when they think if dairy bothers you, it makes you bloated or gives you stomach issues. Pain is more likely to be the case. So if you think you might have fibromyalgia or arthritis, maybe you've diagnosed yourself.
Yeah.
I would try giving up dairy and see if your pain resolves. And I tell you, people where dairy is causing the pain, usually within a week, it's gone.
Oh, that is fascinating. Can I tell you that the joke at my house, I am so quick to blame dairy that if, say, the washing machine has an issue, my husband will say, it's probably the dairy, because he knows. He knows that's what I say for everything. If my kids get a weird rash, I'm like, oh, the dairy. You know, if the check engine light's on in my car, oh, blasted dairy. It's just,
I love it.
I do think it is an issue more than people realize. So
I agree.
I promised you I would keep this short, but you're really fun. I like you.
Thank you.
It's hard to say goodbye, but I love your story. I can't wait to share it with people and to show your pictures. I know it's going to help others, and especially for them to really reflect on, could it be the dairy? it might be the dairy. Thank you, Katrina.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.